Guys, welcome back to We Watch Movie. I am Mike, and this is a spoiler review for Thanksgiving, Eli Roth Thanksgiving. It's out. Our non-spoiler review is up. If you have not seen the movie, I would say definitely check that out first. Don't ruin it for yourself by watching this. But if you have seen it, let's stuff this thing like a turkey. So we open up the movie, and it's very Halloween point of view style when he's walking up to the door. There's even a hockey stick on the door, which just reminds me of H2O. It was like, got suspended for getting a little too crazy with the stick. This is Plymouth. This is probably a place where a lot of people play street hockey. You have the sexiest man of the year himself and Sidney Prescott's husband at the door with the turkey, and he goes in. And this is where it kind of sets the stage for what's going to happen at the end of the movie. If you're not paying any attention, you'll miss it. But the way he talks to Gino Garcione's character, and they have this little moment there, and we're introduced to the family and everything that's going on, and we find out that this fucker right here, Rick Hoffman's character, who I absolutely loved in the movie, he's just a weird, strange dude who fits this character perfectly. He's got strangely huge shoulders, but he's just absolutely perfect as this character who's just runs a right mart, and he's got this hot new stepmom, and he's just trying to do whatever she says, and he's being greedy as shit, but deep down he's actually a good dad. He's a good guy. But in this case, he opens up the store early on Thanksgiving, and I love what the movie has to say right here about that, because haven't you all thought that that's pretty fucked up, that like we don't even do Thanksgiving anymore? Like the Black Friday just kept inching closer and closer and closer inside of Thursday, and now all these people can't even have dinner with their family. They gotta go. It's a whole thing, and I love what they say about it, and that's where it all leads to. We're introduced to our high school characters in the movie, and yes, this is where a lot of the characters are dumbasses, and some of them are unlikable and whatnot, but I have heard this thing, there's that Eli Roth can't write good characters, and with that I would totally disagree. Like, he writes bad characters, yes, because it's a slasher movie and you've got to have those characters that you don't give a shit about when they die, but there's characters in this I actually really did like. I like Patrick Dempsey's character, despite how it does go down for him. The lead girl was fine to me. Nell Verlack, I don't think there was anything wrong with her whatsoever. I thought she was a fine final girl or whatever. And Scuba was a character that I liked a lot. I thought he was actually a good, like, obviously these kids are in high school, so they're not going to be like really seasoned, emotionally smart kids. I thought some of the characters in this were really well done, and some of them were even damn likable. The dad, who's the manager at the Right Mart, who's not in the movie that much, but I thought he was good. I thought there was multiple good characters in this. So yeah, the dialogue, that's the two main things I've heard about the movie, is the dialogue and the characters. And I'm like, okay, the dialogue, it's meant to be that way. It's like a bunch of, even when the guy looks out at the crowd of the Right Mart people, he's like, you stupid fucks. Because you got all these people, instead of just enjoying their life and their Thanksgiving, they're here for a $20 fucking waffle iron, and they're willing to treat each other like shit and just like be absolutely miserable human beings over a $20 fucking waffle iron. This is just these are the people that we're dealing with, this community, and that's why when it opens up, people are like, you know, I'll hit you one fucking time and you'll hit the fucking ground and all that shit, and doing what they're doing. It was on purpose. It fits with the characters. I don't really understand what the problem with the dialogue in it, other than the fact that the people are saying the fuck word. If you're offended by the fuck word, to me, that tells me a lot more about you than it does people who use it, because you don't even know why you're not supposed to use the fuck word. Someone along your life said, hey, don't do that. And you went, yes, sir. And still to this day, you don't even know why. It's a fucking word. Anyways, that just boggles my mind. Like, there's too many fucks in this, and therefore it's bad dialogue. Some of it is purposefully bad to give you the feeling that you're in one of these old school slasher movies from the 80s or the 90s. I feel like that was all done and played masterfully by Roth, so I really don't understand the complaints there. But anyways, you got this big group of people, and they're out in front of the Right Mart, and they end up breaking the doors down, and you can see it coming. I think one thing a lot of us thought from the trailer was that this was going to be far more of a bloodbath than it actually was. It was still gnarly. The one dude rips his throat open on the piece of glass, which was nasty. And I thought it was funny as fuck that he still goes and he gets the waffle iron, and he's just walking around dead with it. And then even funnier, his dead body's laying there gripping his cold dead fingers to it, and some woman walks up and just takes it from the dead guy. It is a hilarious Paul Verhoeven-esque fucking smart way of shaming society, the way that we act on fucking Black Friday and that whole thing as a whole. Love that shit. It was amazing. And it also says a lot about the phone generation, shit like that these kids, instead of helping, they're standing up and he's filming the entire thing, which turns out to be the motive for our killer at the end of the day overall. But Gina Garcione's death was pretty gnarly there. I thought that was actually going to be worse. She gets hit in the face with a cart. We did see that in the trailer breakdown that we did for it. But then when she gets that piece of skin and she just gets kind of scalped as her hair sticks to the shopping cart, and then it pulls, and you can see it pulling, and you can see it pulling some more, and then when it rips it off, it just scalps it back. That was fucking gross as shit. And then you got the one dude who was stampeded to death by the glass door, and then as the baseball star goes to try to help him, the way that his arm snaps when it stepped on, that was gross as shit too. So we're already off to a good start with the gore. I think some of us thought that maybe that Right Mart scene was going to be a little bit more just pure pandemonium and craziness, but without that expectation, it was still a pretty good scene. And it was a scene where it was a perfect introduction to all of our different characters. You have the one dude who looks just like fucking Ross from Friends, which is weird. His short friend, I like the little short guy. I don't know what happened to him. And that's one thing I will say about this that we'll get into as we go further. They perfectly, I feel like, chose who dies and who lives in this. And it was one thing I really wanted to talk about in the spoiler-free review, is that this is set up so perfectly to be a franchise. I really hope more and more people go to see it in the theater so that it can turn into a franchise, because it feels like some of the ancillary characters around the main group, the ones who lived, are perfect setups to be, you know, the Deweys and whatnot of the franchise. If you looked at this as a Scream franchise, the perfect people I felt like survived for the most part, and the perfect people died. That little short dude who was funny as fuck in the opening, who's like, "It's over, dude. Get lost or whatever." I like that guy. I think he's gonna be in it forward. He just disappears kind of in the movie though. And I love the title drop sequence at the end of that, where Patrick Dempsey just freaks the fuck out and starts screaming and shoots his gun, and then it fades into the Thanksgiving. Awesome opening for a movie. Very Screamish, as I always say. And eventually these students, they start getting their text or whatever, and he's doing the table of set thing. The movie does use, it goes out of its way, I feel like, to use current technology. And that's one of the things I love about this movie, is it felt like an 80s and a 90s slasher. I know I said 90s a lot in the last one, but people are right. It has got some 80s love in it there as well. To me, when you look at the poster and you look at how they did it all, it's more 90s than anything else. But I think it just depends on when you grew up and what time frame you grew up in and which movies you watch more. But to me, more 90s. Anyways, they modernized it. And I feel like Roth perfected that. I feel like he wanted to make an 80s, 90s slasher with all the pratfalls of it as well. He wanted it to feel like that, and then he put his spiced, kills and gore and just that Eli Roth feeling to it. I feel like a lot of people's problems with the movie is like those things were done on purpose to make this feel that way, and I really enjoyed that stuff. Anyways, moving on, we're introduced to these teenagers or whatever, and we get another Halloween-esque shot where the guy in the mask is so good too. The John Carver mask is such a good slasher mask. It's just creepy and weird in all the right ways, but it can also be funny at the right angle. Just awesome choice for a mask. Anyways, this dude's standing outside the diner and he's watching them. Very Michael Myers across the street from Laurie Strode and Halloween, the way we got that there. And we're introduced to this waitress. And I love people's fucking Boston accents in this movie. Specifically the Matt Damon character that you see in the beginning of the movie, who's from Hanover, that they get in a fight with. And he's like, "Hey, we got unfinished business, you fuck!" And they both in unison are like, "Suck my fucking cock!" And I just love the way that all these Boston people talk to each other. And I love at the end when the killer reveal happens and he's like, "There will be no fucking leftovers." That's not what he says, but just the way that the Boston accents in this just take it to another level for me and adds that just Thanksgiving Plymouth feel. I don't know why, but I love it, Stan. And that's one of the awesome things about the movie too. You feel like it's Thanksgiving, from the from the snow flurries that are going on, the outfits that people are wearing, the way the town looks. It's got a perfect Thanksgiving feel, which is what you need if you're trying to create a slasher, a classic holiday slasher. I feel like they ruled all that shit. I'm gonna rule you. What movie is that from? Comment down below. The waitress that we're introduced to is the perfect epitome of just like the piece of shit person that this town was going for. And she's first on the killer's list, which I love, where they kind of do that Deadpool thing when he's like, "This shit's gonna have nuts in it." And they show him like looking at his board of the people it's going to kill, and it'll like zoom in on one of them. She's the first one. We saw a lot of her death in the trailer. There was quite a few scenes in this movie in the trailer, no doubt about that. But when he pops up in an awesome jump scare, which wasn't in the trailer, pops up in an awesome jump scare, sticks her to the freezer, and as we saw, her fingers and her face just have to fucking pry off of it. And this is where you get some of that patented Eli Gore. Fuck, that's weird. Eli Roth, like, gore on top of it. On top of just your regular, like, slasher that you would see in this sense. That extra hint of, like, low budget, but also fun gore. Her face slowly rips off of the door. She's drowned in the sink for a little bit, and she escapes, which makes it even worse, because when she pulls away, all her skin's left stuck on the fucking freezer. And then she goes outside and stuff your fucking face with Pepperidge Farm. She goes out into the roadway, and John Carver's in the car. This is the scene, and it being the first like slasher kill of the movie, I was like, ooh, I don't know what we're in for. This could be too far in the wrong direction. It's one of the only scenes I really wasn't impressed with. Cool idea, but the execution was just off. When she runs and he hits her with the car and knocks her into the trash can and leaves her lower half hanging. It like rips her right in half there. That was the quickest shower you've ever taken.
I know.
Why?
To spite you?
Nice. The way it's sitting there, it just looks super CGI. The blood did. It looks super computer generated. Not a great look on that. Great idea. The execution I felt like was off for that. But I love what they did with the body afterward. Again, I kind of thought from the trailer that this was going to be a scene we saw in the Right Mart scene. But no, the killer takes her body back to Right Mart, drops her off the top, and sits her with the star right up, the point of the star right up the ass, just dangling from the Right Mart sign. Was just that shot right there was just fucking genius. I love it. Why am I starting to sound like goddamn Matt Damon in Euro Trip? That's actually who that character reminds me directly of. And we do see the trampoline death kills, speaking of that. But I love the little like tiny bits of comedy that are in this, like that scene. Hey, I'll be right back. We're doing fucking burpees in a second. He goes with his cheerleader girlfriend, and we get the scene from the trailer. This is one of the things that was also a little bit disappointing to me. I feel like you could have done that scene from the trailer on this aspect and maybe gotten it through the MPAA. I don't know, because it didn't really show a lot except for the nakedness from the original trailer. But in this scene, the girl, she takes off. You can see her butt cheeks or whatever. She's jumping up and down. Her boyfriend's watching. He gets killed in the exact same fashion as in the Thanksgiving trailer from 2002 or whatever, and from Grindhouse. Rips his head all the way around, which is fake as shit, but it's whatever. It's fun. And then the knife goes up, and in the original trailer, she does the splits, and she lands on it, like right where her taint would be if women had taints. Right, rhyming, just the thought of it. The knife's like this far sticking out, and she just naked spreads her legs, and Jesus Christ, that just, wow, that's amazing fucking imagery that just fucks with your brain in all the right places. But in this case, she misses it, and it like hits her leg a little bit, and then he stabs her a little bit in the side, and it's just like kind of all over, kind of hokey pokey the bitch, instead of doing what would have been like the really gnarly fucked up kill. I'm not sure what the reason behind that is. It must be the MPAA or something like that, but definitely did not have the effect on that kill that was in the original trailer. No doubt about that. One character I love was fucking Makati. This guy who's going around, he's a piece of shit. Yeah, sure. I mean, he's selling alcohol to kids and all this, but they're selling tickets to this Makati potty. And it's this dude who just reminds me of like Jason Lee. And again, in like the Jay and Silent Bob type movies, he's just that kind of character, like Brody and Mallrats kind of dude if he was grown up. It's exactly what he reminded me of. And he's a piece of shit. Yeah, he's having an underage party for kids, but it's like what Ma was doing in that Blumhouse movie. Like he literally has a doorman and he thinks he's like hot shit. And it's just funny because he watches too much Shark Tank and he's trying to be Mark Cuban. And it's just a funny character. I love the fact that these kids end up going to him to get guns to protect themselves. And he's got like the old boombox with guns. Very like Tango and Cash, you know, like where they had that one dude who was helping them, giving them weapons and shit like that. Like that for a horror movie. Just a cool little fucking spin and a cool character for a movie like this. And by the way, he fucking survives. When I mention a Dewey type character could totally be him. And again, a character with multiple levels to him. Yes, he's a piece of shit, but he's not all that bad of a guy when it comes down to it. He helps the kids out. He gives them guns so they can protect themselves and doesn't charge them for it. Turns out to be a pretty decent dude in the end. Again, a nice piece of character writing in my opinion, as simple as it is. One of the security guards who was on the scene is the next person to die, and his death is pretty cool. He gets the electric he gets the electric stomach carver in the stomach, which I think could have definitely been done a little bit more. It was just kind of quick and it like shakes up inside of him. There was more that we could have done with that, I feel like, for sure. But then you get the scene again in the trailer where the dude, John Carver, does this cool like Ninja Gaiden move and rips his head off by pulling the thingamajig, rips his head off. But the highlight of this fucking kill is 100% after he takes his head and he puts it in the bag and he's getting ready to leave, there's a cat. And I read somewhere online said it was the same cat from the Pet Sematary remake that's meowing, and the killer's like, shit. And then they show the killer feeding the cat and like petting the cat before he leaves. I just fucking love it. It's funny as shit. It's a little personality flavor for the killer. It was awesome seeing everybody in the theater was dying laughing at that. Right then, another funny moment's after the one blonde girl's dad shows up, and he does the smart thing that anybody should do in this situation. I don't know why they never do this in these teen slashers or whatever, but I think he's Russian. I want to say he's a Russian dude. He walks up and he just grabs her by the arm. He's like, get in the car. She's like, where are we going? He's like, Florida. He just slams the door shut. That guy was fucking awesome because every time someone speaks to him, he just goes, we go to Florida. Fuck this shit. Smart. And I know I'm beating a dead horse right now, but we get another very Scream-ish scene when they're at the high school and John Carver shows up at the actual high school and chloroforms both the jock and his girlfriend in a great jump scare. It was in one of the little teasers, the TV teasers. The jump scare was still got me in the theater. He just pops around that corner in a great shot with that fucking mask and gets them. That was pretty cool. And then an awesome chase scene, semi-chase scene that happens when he walks up behind the main girl with the axe and she can see it in her phone. That was a cool scene. She escapes and we kind of start breaking everything down. There's a whole bunch of stuff about the cameras at Right Mart that night and a lot of character finagling to really start. The movie does a great job of setting up red herrings all over the place. Like everyone gets their red herring moment, I feel like, in this quite a bit. So we move forward and we get the scene that happens at Yulia's house. Again, fucking in the trailer with the corn cob on her in her ears. It's interesting to note here that when John Carver kills, there's certain characters that he just tranquilizes and does not kill at all. It should have been a tip to who the killer was, but the sheriff that's supposed to be watching over her house, he uses a trank gun on him. The awesome dad also lives, by the way, so I hope he's in future sequels. He gets tranquilized in the back, and then John Carver comes in. Corncob kills her, which was pretty fucked up because she's like trying to crawl away from him and how that whole scene takes place. But then he goes into the unfinished part of the house. He's like, when's the remodel going to be done? Never. She goes into that part of the house and throws their friend on the saw board right in front of them. And yeah, it was, the practical effects were pretty cheap looking in that moment, but at least they're practical effects and they're not fucking CGI, right? We see that scene where she falls on top and it rips her all wide open and it's super gross. And Scuba has a great moment in that scene where he's like, what do I do? Like, what do I do? And he's like freaking out. That was a really heartfelt, good moment that I felt like was overlooked because everyone's like, Eli Roth sucks at writing and characters, even though he didn't actually, to my knowledge, write the dialogue. He just wrote the story, as far as what I know. But I will say his movies do have a particular strange vibe to them. The same way like M. Night Shyamalan movies, like everybody speaks in hushed tones. You can kind of tell it's an M. Night movie. Eli Roth does have that kind of tone. I put up a question on Twitter, like, would you guys like to see Eli Roth direct Scream? And I'd say overwhelmingly more people than not said no, that it doesn't match. And while I would love to watch that movie, I really would love to just like have that movie, watch it, and then just see what it's like. I don't know if it'd be the best fit. I think the vibes are very, very different, but it would be fascinating. I'll say that. But then they plan to catch John Carver at the Thanksgiving Day parade, and we get more shots from the trailer in this scene. The mascot gets beheaded the exact same way. That was a fun little scene. And we also more red herrings with the Right Mart protesters, because you think that the movie's really trying to be like, hey, it was this guy who did it because his wife died at Right Mart that night. It's all too obvious, so you know it's not going to be that guy. Really good job setting up the red herrings. It was pretty fun the way they did that. But the scene that's memorable from the fucking parade is when the killer shows up and they're all on the boat. He shows up wearing a fucking clown mask. And all of a sudden we're at the beginning of the Dark Knight again, where all the smoke's everywhere and he's got these smoke grenades and he comes in and like uses the tranq on all of them, catches them all at once. An awesome fucking scene. And you get the coolest death, maybe one of the coolest deaths I will say in the movie, when a boat with one of those gigantic, I don't even know why they're on there, those gigantic like nodules that are at the end of the parade boats, goes through the back of a truck and just completely fucking explodes this guy's head. You literally see his head open up like a turkey of all things and the thing coming out of it. It's fucking gross and I loved it. And you get another funny ass scene where the shitty stepmom wakes up and she opens up her eyes, and you're wondering, you know the scene in the original Grindhouse trailer was he unveils the turkey and it's a human being with their legs tied up, which is fucking nasty anyways. But then there's also a turkey with a head on the other side of it, and then he takes that turkey and he fucks it in front of the entire family and the kids. It's disgusting. It sounds like someone mixing macaroni and cheese. You'll never mix macaroni and cheese the same way again once you realize that. But it's funny as fuck the way he's just like, he's wearing the mask and he's got the music playing and he's just like basting her and like running the thing across her lips and putting butter on her and like putting little garnishes at her feet, and the whole scene is just funny as shit. But it ends in a pretty long chase scene. She gets away from him, a cool chase scene, a very Scream-ish chase scene, I will say so myself, that ends in a badass scene where he just throws a pitchfork from like 10 feet away and nails her in the back and then pulls her away. Really cool chase scene. There's multiple good chase scenes in this movie. Although I think that whole idea of like these movies have to have long chase scenes is a little bit overblown and done. Like sometimes chase scenes suck and they really suck the tension out. If the killer's chasing a character you know is going to live, if it's the middle of the movie and it's the final girl and you know they're not going to die, it's just there's no tension to me with that shit. And the old school tropes, I'm going to hide in a locker and will he hear me breathe? It's not that chase scenes are necessary to me, but a good chase scene can really make a movie better. And I think there's a couple decent ones. And probably my favorite point of the movie is the end where he has the table set and he's put all this work into it. And when you know who the killer is, it makes it all the more funny because he just looks like the kind of guy who would put that much work into something like this. But everything's been thought about. Everyone's sitting at the table. There's people's heads. There's dead bodies. It's a really just fucked up, cool horror scene. And the best part is he's live streaming this thing and he has this earpiece going around and he's speaking. And the way the voice sounds, it's sort of like robotic and fucked up, but he's cracking jokes and being over the top. Not too over the top, but just enough to be creepy. But he's like sassy about the whole thing. I don't know how to explain it, but I love this fucking scene. It was like he was putting on a goddamn dinner show. And it was so ballsy and it was so out there. And it was my favorite scene in the entire movie. He was like, I've put the cheerleader in my wine refrigerator. She'll pair nicely with the Caitlin or whatever her name was. And he sticks the corkscrew in the dead cheerleader's neck, pops it out and pours blood. And then he kills Evan in front of everybody with the meat mallet or whatever and just smushes to smushereens his head right in front of everybody. And again, this is a character, didn't feel that bad for, to be all that honest with you. So it works out. And then he cracks his brain open and pulls the shit out of him and uses it for like cranberry floaters or whatever the fuck it is. All this shit has a purpose. And all of his kills are done with different Thanksgiving dinner materials, which is so fucking smart. I love that shit. And I love this scene and the way he was acting during it and how it was all going on. And that ends in another chase scene when Scuba gets away. And what a badass chase scene this was. You saw a bit of it in the trailer when he jumps through the window with the axe and is like swinging at them at the camera. It was so smart how they did this because he hits him with an axe, incapacitating him, but not killing him because he's one of the more interesting, entertaining characters in the movie. Just like Makati doesn't show up here. I think that the last act could have benefited from, for sure, but I'm glad that we still have that character alive for the sequels. During that scene, things that happened, the mustache dad or whatever that I really like a lot, he actually gets to live too, which is really cool. Didn't expect that, but he sees his wife sitting there just like turned into a literal fucking turkey, which by the way was a creepy ass scene when we saw him put her in the oven. And then he turns it on and you see her skin melting and then he stabs her with the meat thermometer and it pops out. That was a great scene. But yeah, she's tied up on the table in front of everybody, legs up. Pretty much, I think it was like her butthole was facing her husband, which is pretty messed up. Her head is on the table and it's cooked. Thankfully, well, depending on how you look at it, we do not get the scene where he fucks the turkey in front of everybody. Didn't expect to, though. That one didn't shock me. I was pretty sure we weren't going to see that in this movie. But that was one thing that was missing from the trailer. But instead, he cuts off a piece of steak from her leg for the dad. And just the way it looks when he cuts it, knowing it's human meat and it's like white looking, the way it's just fucking gross. And he's like puking in his gag. And I'm like, I would be too. Super nasty scene. But anyway, she escapes. Not as many people die in this scene as you would expect, especially in an Eli Roth movie. And again, I hate this thing what we do with directors where it's like, oh, well, Damien Leone made Terrifier, so everything he does now is going to just be gore porn. It's like, you know, and I feel like the Eli Roth is the same thing. Like Knock Knock was a really smart fucking wild movie that was very cerebral. And I'm not saying it was like, you know, a Christopher Nolan movie or anything, but I'm just saying like the horror was really mostly in the mind and stuff like that. There was no like crazy torture or anything like that or super gore in that movie. But for some reason, everybody thinks that's what these movies are going to be just because he made Hostel and Green Inferno. But anyways, I digress. There's a chase scene that happens. It's a pretty generic chase scene, but it's interesting how it works out. She comes across and sees Patrick Dempsey's character laying in the street. Now, this was the only dead giveaway to me. I was hoping Patrick Dempsey would be the killer. I really was, because he kind of seemed like he was going to be in Scream 3, and then he wasn't, but it would have been fun to see. And he's so nice and he's so charismatic to everybody throughout the movie that I love the fact that he's the killer. I don't know. But anyways, you see him laying in the street, and that's when I knew that he was the killer, because it's too obvious that they're trying to divert us off of his path. Yeah, his killer reveal was really well done. I do think that when she looks down and she sees that he has the same burrs on his shoes, she realizes, oh, he was the one chasing me. And he realizes at the same time. So you have this cool moment between the two of them. And then this awesome moment where he just spills his guts and he tells the truth, and he's like, actually, so I did it because you little shits are responsible for the death of my wife to be, because he was fucking his friend's wife and she was pregnant with his baby. Gina Gershon was. He was like, she was going to leave him at any time and my future was with her. I should be sitting at a Thanksgiving table with her and my baby right now, but I'm stuck here from you, so I'm going to take it out on you. And he's like, you should see the surprise on your face right now. And it was just a really great Scream-ish type of killer reveal with lots of dialogue. That is one thing I'll say. Everybody's like, no, it's more like the 80s. I'm like, well, this with the killer reveal and the dialogue specifically was very, very more 90s. I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream type of movie, killer reveal. To me, she's like, you should have seen your face, and pulls up the fact that he's live streaming to everybody, and he calls her a goddamn bitch, but he's told the town and everybody what he's done. He just gave his plans to everybody. So it was a really smartly written, again, no one's going to give credit for that, but it was a smartly written scene. The way that she noticed he was the killer, the reveal of him was good in that moment, and the way she caught him by showing him was really good in that moment. And now he has nothing left to do but try to kill her. But her boyfriend shows up, saves her, and then we got one more little chase scene that happens. And everything kind of comes full circle here where she uses the gun, and the goddamn Thanksgiving Day turkey's blowing up, and it's full of, I guess it's flammable somehow. I don't know the helium or what, but it's flammable. He's standing right next to it. She shoots it. There's a terrible line of dialogue that's backed up by what was a really good scene where he's chasing her with the axe, and he was like, there will be no leftovers, like the way he screams it. It was really cool. But when she shoots this thing, he's standing right next to it, and then there's fire everywhere, and he's gone. And of course, when the police show up, they were like, there's no way he could have survived that. Nobody could have survived that. Trust me. Did we find a body? No. And then there's all these firefighters walking out with their masks covered, and it makes you think of The Guest, which is a fucking rad-ass movie. You got to watch it if you've never seen it. Go see The Guest right now with Dan Stevens. But makes you think of The Guest a little bit. And then everybody comes together like they do in these movies, and you realize that Ross, the boyfriend Ross-looking motherfucker, he's still alive, that the pitcher kid's still alive, Scuba made it. So many characters survived this, Makati, and you're sitting there thinking to yourself, holy shit, this could be a great franchise. Like, I want to see the sequel. I want to see these characters like get expanded upon. I want it so badly. And then it's got kind of a bad jump scare at the end where she has a dream sequence and there's a fire and he's in the closet or whatever. Not necessary, but again, throws back to those 80s, 90s slasher vibes for sure. And then my favorite part, just the perfect, not my favorite part, but the perfect cherry on the top of the whole thing is the Misfits are playing as we go out with this badass outro, animated outro with the Misfits playing. Just a fucking kick-ass, fun-ass time at the movies. It's so nice to see a slasher like this on the big screen, and for it to be a holiday slasher with the chance that we could get sequels that come out during the holidays. I fucking love this movie so much. I gave it an 8.5, I do believe, and I do stand by that. It's going to be one of my top 10 movies of the year. And yeah, so I think that we covered it all. I'm sure that I missed some stuff, but I was going to do a live spoiler stream for this, but Jay's not seeing the movie, so weren't able to do that. So do me a favor. We will be live, by the way, Wednesday night, tomorrow night, doing all the Eli Roth, Robert Rodriguez, and Quentin Tarantino movies in a tier list. So please join us tomorrow night live at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's Wednesday night live at 8 p.m. Eastern. And make sure you subscribe and you have the bell on, because a lot of people miss the live streams and stuff like that because they don't know when they're happening, because you have to turn on the fucking notifications, or a lot of times YouTube won't tell you that we're live. And it's such a fun thing to experience at the same time live together. It's different than even the replays or whatever. So try one out if you've not tried one out before. You know, get some strange up in you. I love your all's fucking faces, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Here comes that white-faced fucker, an asshole like no other. He's a big old piece of shit. Wants to stab your sister's tits cause he's a white-faced fucker. Loomis can't recover. Dr. Challenge drunk again, sleeping with your sister's friends.
Do you want to know about the darkness?
I said, goddamn.
Halloween never ends, suck my fucking dick, and I don't really care what Blumhouse fucking says. Put him in a box, or suck a fucking cock. You can say he's dead, but we all know he's not, yeah.
So let's go trick or treating, let's go fucking drinking, let's all go rent Pumpkinhead on VHS.